So I just go over to the other question. Yeah, this is a very good one. What do you say to people who say that spending time in meditation is spiritual bypassing and that we need to be actively engaged in changing the world? Well, people who say that to be spending time in meditation is spiritual bypassing obviously don't know what meditation is. Because meditation is not retreating from the world, but meditation is to confront reality. You know, most of the time we are bypassing, because we are bypassing in our thoughts. We think of things rather than look at these issues at hand. We think around the issues. We escape with our thoughts from them. But real meditation is actually to be aware of that which is. And the only way we can be aware of what is by being aware of the actual moment we actually exist in. Everything else is just bypassing, because we're creating forms, thoughts about what we think it is, but we're not actually seeing the reality of the way it is. For example, when we see reality as it is, we are totally engaged with reality. You know, because we cannot, when we see a news item about some tragedy, people who are engaged with the present moment, they feel instant sympathy, instant compassion for what's going on. And that is a prompt for them to actively do something about it within the limitations that they have. So, you know, I belong to a great number of sort of charities which, you know, where you put money in on a regular basis. And that's something we all can do. We can all do that. When something captures our imagination or our compassion, we can actually actively do something about it. So we don't bypass. You know, I read the paper, I watch the news, I'm engaged. And in the way I'm engaged is in accordance with my abilities. And the way I engage with reality is by trying to uplift people's souls. You know, that's because I feel I've been given the skills to create images, to create something which can cheer people up. And other people do it in different ways. A friend of mine does it through charity. He runs a food bank. And my daughter is involved in food bank distribution. My other daughter does yoga classes with old people and brings them together because they're isolated. And so everybody is aware of reality and they all meditate. Then you are engaged with reality. So there is no bypassing. Bypassing only happens when we engage the mind rather than our heart. And meditation is all about the heart and engaging with what is, what actually takes place. And as a result of the feeling which are evoked by what is happening, we take action. So meditation, active, taking part in the world, you know. And this, all people who are all great teachers, they have had an active part in their social communities, either with their teaching or they took actively, did something to help, you know. So, question 5. We're halfway through. What is the attitude of people you spoke to in the astral world to life in the physical world? So what do people in the astral world think about our life in the physical world? That's a really interesting question, because my experience is when we are dead, let's say when we are in the astral world, that is our reality. it is our new life. And the best way to look at it is like, let's say we've been on holiday in the Bahamas. We come back from holiday and now we're back at work. Then the holiday is only a memory. You know, we can go back to the holiday, we can look at the slides, the film, the movies, we can talk to our friends about it, but the holiday is gone. So for people living on the astral level, they have got a completely new life. And not only that, they properly spend very little time, you know, thinking about their previous existence, because they suddenly find their world has expanded. They suddenly find they have got new opportunities, new possibilities, which they couldn't even have dreamt of, you know. So it doesn't mean they are sort of indifferent towards the people they have left behind, far from it, because now they can actually be with them anytime they think about them. They can see them because they become aware of their presence. Because every human being on this world has got a presence on the astral level. And I notice that when I have an out-of-body experience, I can draw the presence of any person I think of instantly to me. But the thing is, of course, that there's a kind of respect, an automatic respect I found. For example, I discovered that when I had an out-of-body experience and I was on the astral plane and I was distracted by all kinds of things, by the surrounding. I talked to a woman who I bumped into. She explained things to me. And then I became aware of a woman standing in the background near a building, and it turned out to be my mother. Okay, so I walked up to her. I said, Mutti, you know, why didn't you say hello? She said, I didn't want to interrupt your conversation you had with this young lady there. And so people have a respect for the living. And there's a sort of unwritten rule, really, that we respect each other. You know, we don't sort of, you know, intrude on other people. And this is maintained, this level of respect, because it can be very instant. When people think a lot about the people they have gone, they have died, and are constantly thinking about them, we have to be aware that the people, our loved ones, they're not oblivious to our presence. They just have their own lives they lead, you know, and they're very, very often very interesting lives, you know. And I very recently had another experience with my mother, who I've had, she died in 1995, or 97, I think 97. And she was, I met her at various stages, and one time, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I discovered her where she was with another man. You know, she was not even with my father. My father has since reincarnated, I found out, in Russia. He's leading his own life now. You know, he's now a young man. And my mother met a really nice man who was like a soulmate to her. She has not been in contact much with her husband, her second husband, when she was still alive. But when I met her, it was her new partner who was the first to greet me. And that was really interesting. He didn't even introduce, my mother didn't even introduce him to me, because he already knew me. He took an interest in me, you know, because of my mother. So we have to accept that lives change and lives carry on. So yeah, the best way to think about it is, how do we think about our previous life? probably not very much, because we've got so many other things we want to get on with and want to think about. And it's all, for the betterment of our experience, of our nature. But we don't lose contact with love. We never lose contact with the people we love. That's just an impossibility. They're always there, So another very, very good question is, which is almost impossible to find an answer to, what do you see as the point of life on Earth? Do you plan to come back again? It's a personal question, I don't know yet. But I think the point of life on Earth is to confront resistance, to be confronted with our limitations. That's quite a big thing, because when we are on the astral level or on the higher energy level, there's basically no limit to what we can do, what our creativity will allow us to do and to explore. We are free. We live in, at least the people who have integrated spiritual life, who are sort of ethical people and are good people, let's say, and think about other people and not just about themselves, they have got a really good life ahead of them. But it's almost too good, because there's no friction. There is friction, of course. I had a recent experience where people who live on the astral level, not everything goes to plan. That's another thing which I only recently discovered. And that was an experience which I had to experience simply because I needed to know. And I came across situations where things happened which were annoying, For example, I was trying to get into a restaurant, and there was somebody was blocking the door, So there was an element of annoyance. And when I got into the restaurant, the lady offered me an ice cream, but the ice cream was melting, and I didn't have a plate to put it in. And a lot of these little things happened during this experience simply because I wanted to know, is everything perfect? Fortunately, not everything has to be perfect. There are things happening which are not congruent with other people's will, with other people's intent. And so on the lower level of the astral plane, there is still conflict. And on the very low levels, there are still wars, real conflicts, where people attack each other. And this is really quite interesting. The higher we rise in our awareness, the more we enter the stream of nature, where everything is in harmony, where we cannot be anything else but harmonize with nature, with the thoughts of others. Everything goes into a flow, and life becomes more and more beautiful and more fulfilling as a result of it. So that's a really interesting experience. So do I want to come back? Yeah, I think what is a very powerful thing is when you have experienced a state of unity, let's say. If you experience a state of unity, you also experience an incredible love, And so it becomes very, very hard to be in a really nice place and watch other people struggle. And one experience I can use here was when I was in Greece in 2017. I visited a monastery on Mount Athos, and we had a lot of conversations with the monks there about meditation and everything. And after a couple of days, one of the monks, I expressed an interest in the icons. One of the monks said, "I'd like to show you one of the icons, because you're interested in it." And he took me into a chapel which was not really for people, for visitors. It was for ordained monks, and he showed me a picture of a saint, Saint Anastasia, who was murdered in the year 3000, and I had a really powerful experience of her presence then, and it was so strong that I felt overwhelmed with love. When I looked at her icon, I could feel her presence, and this presence was always there when I thought about her, even when I came back, and it was a real, like a real person. Mediums who listen to this, they probably know more what I'm talking about. It's not somebody I saw, but somebody I felt. And what happened was that one day I asked her, I would like to know where you live. Take me to your home. And that was a really interesting experience that followed. And suddenly I had a very powerful inner vision of shanty towns and slums. And I was shocked. I thought, that's not your home. I asked you to take me to your home. And she answered very clearly to me, my home is where I'm needed most. And that was, to me, that was a revelation, because that also brought into my experience, or into my memory, the ideal of the bodhisattva. So when people are enlightened and they reach the apex of their destiny, let's say, and they feel this, they share this compassion with the universal consciousness, they cannot bear the idea of being in a state of heaven and having people suffering. So they very often go back onto earth and incarnate in order to help people with their lives down here. So that happens more than we think, and you will probably know people yourself who are very, very beautiful people, very, very compassionate, very helpful. I met a few people like that. They may not even be aware that their true home is, where they belong. They may just be here simply because of the love they want to bring to the world. I can't claim that I will do that. I probably will more enjoy, spend more time on the levels for enjoyment, but I can't guarantee that I may not want to come back and do other things, because I quite like this life here. I don't find anything that I want to escape from or be away from, because you carry heaven around with you. It's always there. It's always within calling distance. You don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to die in order to be happy or have a fulfilling life. You carry heaven around with you, and that's a very important thing to remember. Yeah. But most people don't come here for that reason. Most people come here because they want to learn. They want to overcome resistance. They want to overcome challenges. They want to learn. They use opportunities for growth which they cannot get on any other plane. So this leads us really almost to the next question.